bitch, just slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX. J-Way. I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless. I'm gone. Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck. Give me that. To the trends. See you, Lee, be the best.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Corner to Copa. It's been a little bit, but we're back. If you've been paying attention on the YouTube side of things, we've been giving you some shorts, just giving you some, as much content as we possibly could. There hasn't been much action free agency wise, just a lot of speculation. But the good news is we do get some baseball this month. I think it officially starts at the end of February. So we know the pitchers and catchers report in February. So that much, we'll at least be able to, just bring you some type of news, whatever the case may be, whatever is good or bad. We got baseball back in this month. Coach, of course, we do a lot of talking behind the scenes, but how are you feeling at this current juncture? Kind of dark.
Man, it is cold in the D.
Yeah,
we are experiencing some almost childhood-like winter cold here up in the mitten. But as Foster, you mentioned, we are exactly 20 calendar days from first exhibition games, February 21st. So pitchers and catchers will be reporting here very soon. And we've got kind of, I guess, a lot for the rest of the landscape to kind of lay out and go over what looks like our appears to be final roster with maybe some additional action pending from School's arbitration. That's still TBD on the numbers. So that report came out again the other day. I think Friday, John Heyman came out and kind of reiterated the same thing about Chris Bassett and the School arbitration. So we'll see if there's any other action there, but that appears to be, if there is, that would be it in terms of roster moves. But from a lineup standpoint, we are pretty much locked in and ready to go for the 2026 year.
Yeah. So let's get to, well, first we'll talk about the 26-man roster with the assumption that we'll have 13 pitchers and 13 position players. Did you list everybody out that you thought would be on the roster, or how did you go about doing that?
I mean, unless someone really makes it out of spring training and there's a cut, I don't really see a change compared to last year. I mean, whoever we had last year at the end of the season is pretty much who we're going to have to start this year. So I think, a lot of the talk with some of the one or two individual prospects going back to the deadline last year, when we started to see some struggles from guys like Javi and a little bit of Glaber, but that was due to some injury. We were talked about some of the other prospects that we were hoping maybe could make a debut and potentially crack it. But yeah, and the guys that made it last year, in my opinion, are pretty much all assuredly a shoo-in to stay on the roster for this year, barring, and as I mentioned, one potential change, but that would be a big development while they're down there in Lakewood.
So I would agree. There's not a lot of change. We didn't really bring anybody. We did trade Justin Henry Malloy. So he was kind of in and out of the mix a little bit. And then, that's pretty much it. We had some injuries last year, so there were some moving pieces. But what I have as of right now, this is what I have right now. I have Dylan Dingler, Torkelson, Torres, Baez, Keith, Riley Green, Parker Meadows, Kerry Carpenter, and Perez. Those are the starters. And then off the bench, I have Jahmai Jones, Zach McKinstry, Matt Vierling, and Jake Rogers. So what are your thoughts? Anybody missing that you can think of?
Not really missing, but I think your one, I guess, omission is not news to me. Obviously, behind the scenes, we talk a lot, as you mentioned, and And the name of the individual that was not listed on your list there, I'm pretty sure we had been begging to be removed even from the 40-man last year in Trey Sweeney. So yeah, that's the one that I don't think anyone's going to lose any sleep over. But yeah, hopefully a healthy Vierling can provide a little more outfield stability and kind of help Javi kind of reshift most of his defensive focus back to shortstop primarily. And in the event we need an emergency third center fielder, I guess Javi could be that in a fill-in. So a healthy Vierling is something I kind of hope we can look forward to this year.
Yeah, that's going to be important. And as I think about it, that only leaves one infielder on the bench, and that's Zach McKinstry. So that is where, Vierling is an infielder, but yeah, Vierling is an infielder. So I omit that part. The guys I have on the bubble would be Hyu Lee, Trey Sweeney, because I'm sure he'll be in the mix, and then two individuals that were on the that were added to the 40-man this year. That's Trey Cruz and Eduardo Valencia, who is a first baseman and catcher mix. If Jake Rogers starts slow, if Jake Rogers, he's on the bubble himself. I don't think they'll be able to stomach another, flirting with the Mendoza line, offensive production from him, especially if Valencia continues to hit at the pace that he has. That'll put a whole lot of pressure on the coach to just make the right move. So that's the 13 players. That's the 13 position players. And I'm actually going to pull up the 40-man roster for the pitchers.
To your point about Jake, do you think at least he stays to the deadline? Because it
depends on how.
That's Skubal's boy, remember?
Yeah, but he no longer is a battery mate with him. I don't think I'm sure he caught a handful of games with Skubal, but it wasn't a ton of games. So that's his boy. But I mean, Skubal, once again, if that's hanging you up, are you really a team player that you just want to hang on to your homeboy that's not doing anything? Like, we really gotta be real here. We have a Gold Glove catcher. That's your man. Okay, that's your boy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. For the pitcher side of things, right now there's not a lot of moving pieces as far as I'm concerned. We know who, as they list, there's 6 guys listed right now, with Drew Anderson and Troy Melton pretty much competing for that 5th position. Whoever doesn't get it will likely, some say that Troy Melton could possibly spend some time in the minor leagues. But technically, well, first of all, I hope that he just wins out the 5th, the 5th role, and Drew Anderson can just be a long relief guy. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot that can shake up. We got Bo Brisky coming back. We got Sawyer Gibson Long, guys like that. But the bullpen is looking pretty strong. 3 high leverage pitchers at the back end. You got Tyler Holton, who's one of our lefty specialists. Brennan Hanafy and Herder, both those guys are in the 2-3 range as far as ERAs. They had great years last year. Kiter Montero, he is always a candidate to be sent down. We know that it happens a lot, but he has the ability to start as well, so that should help him. And then you got Bailey Horn, who didn't pitch a lot last year, but he's another lefty and had pretty good numbers, but pretty new to the 40-man roster. Any thoughts about all of those guys?
Yeah, I think to your point about Anderson and Melton, I think they have a little bit of the luxury with Kiter, who's kind of been that 2+ year hybrid starter, long reliever, whatever you need almost out of the bullpen, kind of Swiss Army knife, and he's been there, done that. He doesn't. I don't really think he has a benefit of developing down in Toledo much longer, because he's been around now. Because what's Kiter at 2000? So he's
I was just going to look up and see if we even
summer. So
yeah, I was just going to look up and see if he has any
yeah.
options left, because he may not.
This could be his last year of team control, because it's MLB service time, so he's only been up for most of the last 2 years, so he might even still have like a year or two more beyond this year, depending on what the qualification he met for that service time. But to your point there, it could be a luxury that they have, and even going back briefly to your on the bubble for your lineup, I think that that help down there for injury call up from the 40 to the 26, the guys you mentioned, I think might be better than it was last year. Then again, we had to use a lot of that last year fluidly throughout the whole year with the injuries that we had, and especially after the All-Star break, we were trying to mix and match some things to get the ball rolling again. So I'm interested to see what those guys do, not just to the start of spring training and their minor league time, but how they transpire throughout the year and maybe force the front office to bring them up just for a peek. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you're hot. It's not a fluke. We got to see what we might have here potentially if someone else is struggling. So the pressure is going to be on the 26-man guys right now. Rotation-wise, yeah, it is weird not seeing Job on there because we're pretty much not going to expect to see him all year. So I think that's where Melton could shine this year. But yeah, Canley, Finnegan kind of rounds out some of the bullpen guys from last year who were maybe a little, I don't want to say young because a lot of these guys weren't that young. They've been in it for a few years, but in terms of full year exposure and getting that taste and experience, these veteran guys like Jansen hopefully can be some mentor / relievers as well, not just banking on them to deliver, but teach these guys some tricks of the trade to develop throughout the year themselves to be a complete rotation and bullpen.
Yeah, and to your point about the guys on the bubble, I mean, last year that would have been Akil Baddoo, Justin Henry Malloy. We ended up with all the guys we had on the 60-man. We had Manuel Margot, Andy Ibanez he started the year with us, but he was kind of up and down with the team. So we still yet to be seen if we're going to be. Well, Jahmai Jones was in that mix too. Obviously, he became a staple on the team, but we should be a little bit better off. We obviously have guys like Max Anderson. I mean, we're getting younger again. You got guys like Max Anderson who's not on the 40, but will likely be in the fold soon. Kevin McGonigal is on his way, so I think we should be a little deeper bat wise. But the ceiling, well, outside McGonigal is going to give you some ceiling, but it would be nice to have more solidified, certain pieces to work off of. And I think I might have talked about it last time, but when you look at the bullpen last year, we had guys like Tommy Canley and John Brebbia holding down roles in the 40-man. So to replace them for a full season with Kyle Finnegan and Kenley Jansen, you're already that much better off. So that's that. Let's get to this starting lineup. Now, do you have a starting? I have one listed and ready. We can just work off of mine, or do you have one already prepared that you want to throw out?
I'm not even going to fight this platoon thing anymore. I mean, I'm going to pretty much bank it off of whatever we saw last year because it's not going to – I feel like it's not really going to change. Sure, some of the names like Andy and some of those guys are no longer there, but I will run off yours because I really don't think there's going to be too much of a variance, if at all. So I think this construction of the 26 kind of feels like more straightforward, if that makes sense in terms of this platooning flexibility. So, I'm pretty sure we'll be pretty much aligned on that. But if there's anything different, I'll call it out.
All right, let's see. Share screen. Here we go. All right. So we'll start with the right hand pitcher side. I got Cole Keith as the leadoff hitter. He gets on base. Certainly got on base more than Meadows last year. Pretty solid contact guy. Takes his walks. Not the fastest, most fleet of foot, but got to get somebody at the top of the lineup that can get on base. Gleyber Torres, he's pretty much, a staple in the number 2 role. And then you got your power hitters, Green and Carpenter. You got Torque, who has pretty even splits, I think, between lefties and righties. I think he's a little better against lefties. You got Wenceel Perez and Dingler, which that could go either way. You could maybe put Dingler at the 6 and Perez at the 7. It depends on who's hot. Baez in the 8 hole where he's pretty comfortable, coming off a pretty solid year and a good postseason. And then Parker Meadows as like the secondary leadoff hitter at the bottom of the lineup, which is kind of sad for a left-handed hitter, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is pretty much what we saw last year. I mean, I for the sake of the alternating, the Dingler Perez spot is the most logical because Perez obviously can switch hit. So if there were to pull in a lefty, he can just obviously go to the other side. You don't worry about it at that point. And then if they do go to lefty, well, guess what? Dingler's going to mash that lefty too. So they're still fine in that spot. But if you're going from who's hot or not, yeah, that's interchangeable. There's no issue there whatsoever from at least a right-hand pitching standpoint. Yeah.
You could also toy with swapping out Wenceel Perez for Keith too, maybe if Perez is, hitting well, he's got some speed, so he could help in that regard. But Keith's a guy that he could literally hit anywhere in the lineup. Honestly, if he's on a heater, I would put him in the 5 slot. Honestly, so major. He's
got one of the best barrel contacts in the last 2 years in the team, like consistency, hard hit rate. I mean, that tells you that hitting style is really, desirable for a leadoff hitter, but obviously he's not the fleetest of foot, but if he can avoid that slow start like he has the last 2 years, he could be a decent kind of substitute table setter until Park can kind of get things going.
And if he can start a little hotter, that would be amazing. But he has progressively gotten better and better every year. I saw a graphic that I don't know if I forgot to save it, but his numbers were very, very close to Alex Bregman's numbers last year, for what it's worth. Obviously not nearly as good of a defensive player as Bregman, but hitting wise, very comparable. Let's get to the left-handed lineup. This was my favorite lineup last year. It's against lefties. We actually fared really well against lefties, but a lot of that was due to the second half of Jahmai Jones, who had some of the best numbers in all of baseball against lefties. He was slashing, I think he had an OPS nearly of 1,000. But Jahmai Jones in the leadoff spot, he hit a decent amount of leadoff home runs, leadoff for the game home runs. So he's definitely a good table setter, although he's not the fastest guy either. Torres is, I think he mashed pretty good against lefties. Riley Green, I think pretty much batted 3rd or 4th, no matter what, whether he was lefties or righties. Hopefully he can have a more, not such a top heavy season as he did last year. Torque's pretty good against lefties. Dingler, I just pushed up because he mashes lefties. Perez turns around, bats righty. I add Vierling in here, and that's due to Parker Meadows getting the day off. Vierling, if he can come back to the way he was before, he's going to be able to provide us some speed, some contact, some good bat to ball, and solid center field play. Javi Baez, who mashed lefties last year, still can't really justify moving him up higher than the 8th slot. And then Zach McKinstry, who actually had a good slash line against lefties, would get the start. Now, as far as positions, I think I had Dingler at 3rd. Yeah. No, not Dingler. Vierling at 3rd. Vierling at 3rd. Replacing Cole Keith. Javi in center field, replacing Meadows, and McKinstry at short. McKinstry is short. Thoughts? This one's interesting. This one can go a number of different ways, especially if you want to keep Carpenter in the lineup. And then Perez would play left field.
Right. Oh, left?
Green would play. No. Green would play left.
Yeah.
Perez right.
Yeah. I mean, on the position side of things, I'd swap Baez and McKinstry. McKinstry's a better athlete in center field, can cover more ground than Baez naturally.
He doesn't play center field though.
I mean, if you can play everywhere else in the field but center field, you can play center field.
Yeah. I mean, because when you think about last year, Javi was playing center, and then Sweeney was playing short, probably. Yeah, Sweeney was probably playing short
here and there. Yeah, when he was up. Yeah.
Either way,
Either
way, Sweeney wouldn't start against a lefty.
No. But my thing with this, the lefty, that construction has it all. I'm not handicapping Carpenter anymore. I'm sorry. He's a potential. This guy is potential bottom tier MVP potential candidate for this team. I don't mean just for Detroit. I mean, based on if he's healthy and he gets regular at bats, this is a 25, 100 plus guy. We said that the year before. And he proved down the stretch last year, the last 2-3 months, in what little, again, limited sample size he was given opportunities for. He hits lefties. Unless your long goal for this as a front office and the owner is to keep his numbers suppressed to give him a low value extension, which I'm sorry we're having to have that kind of awkward topic, but this is the reality of what we've seen, not just here, but the other team that he owns and what little he's done with them. In terms of payroll, that's the only other explanation there would be to handicapping a guy who, unarguably, in my opinion, is the best hitter on this team and has been for the last 2 years when he's healthy. So that's my only thing with I got until Carpenter goes, 0 for 30 slump against lefties, he's got to be playing and hit. I don't care if he's out in the field. His bat has to be in the lineup every day to give you the best opportunity offensively.
Yeah, he made a strong statement, not verbally, but just with his play last year, with how he was able to play against the Mariners, and it was evident that he was the most dangerous. There weren't too many dangerous bats in the lineup. Green had nothing. Keith had nothing. Most of these, Torres was hurt. They wouldn't play Jahmai Jones. Green was the one guy, and Baez were the two guys that you really had to focus on, but mostly Carpenter, because Baez was not leaving the park. Carpenter had the threat to leave the park at any point. So yeah, although I wanted to show some disparity and go with the trends of what they do, just to show the change in things, but. In that regards, you gotta keep Jahmai Jones bad in there too. So he's your DH, and then Perez would get the day off, and Carpenter would remain in the field. So,
yep. And I like that with Perez coming off the bench for that switch when they do go the other way, because then you could do it for either Jahmai or you could do it for Carey if you really had to for whatever reason. You have a little bit more up and down the lineup there because they're separated a couple spots away from each other. So you don't have to accidentally overload back-to-back spots in that lineup for a change.
Yep. And then Carpenter probably goes to DH, and then you just put Perez in the field because he's a better outfielder. So can you do that? You can do that, right?
Well, no. Once you got someone DH, if you pinch hit for them in that spot, they're hitting for that guy in the field. If you put him in the field, you lose your DH ability. So that DH hitter would just be your permanent hitter fielder for the rest of that spot in the lineup that game.
Gotcha. All right. Before we get to the first break, no, let's just take a break. Damn, did it go? Hold on. was tripping. Okay, so who out of all the players in the that we have listed, who would you say is on the hot seat and is in danger in losing their spot on that 26-man roster?
Ooh,
we know there's some locks. We know Torres, Green, Torque more than likely are locks, but who could possibly lose their spot?
Man, I would think it'd only be if another team came calling, but I think potentially Veerling would be the guy. I know we just by addition of subtraction based on the signing that we had to let go of basically JHM already. But given who we already have progressing behind him in the minor leagues over the last year and change, I think that still maintains the healthiest position to get someone bumped or traded would be Veerling, considering we've got Max Anderson and Max Clark and all the other guys we've had out there that are kind of chomping at the bit and progressing. So we don't really have a definitive shortstop per se. We've got a second baseman and someone else we're trying to maybe convert into third down there in double and triple A right now. So yeah, Veerling for me right now is the only one. Jake, I expect him to hang on to at least until the deadline. But again, that could be an issue where not an issue. It could be a situation where the aforementioned guys at the top of the show that made it this year on the 40-man, if they continue to stay hot down there, it may force their hand into saying, thank you, Jake, for everything, but we can't hold these guys back any longer. Dingler's got it locked up. It's time to take a look at potentially, and it wouldn't be just for a catcher. Heaven forbid anything happens with Torque or they decide that, we think we could, for what he might get paid elsewhere, we could bring up one of these guys that are with us now. So that'd be the only other possibility, in my opinion, at least from a non-pitching standpoint.
Yeah, I think the three is the trifecta of outfielders that were all placed on the 60-man last year that didn't really have a spring training. I think if any of the three, Wenceel Perez, Parker Meadows, or Veerling, are slow out the gate, I think that they figure something out in the way of bringing somebody else in, just because they're kind of similar in a way. They're just similar standings. Obviously, Carpenter and Green, they're locks. I guess Jones, if Jones isn't hitting, he could be the odd man out just because he doesn't play defense. So it's similar to Andy Ibanez. Once Andy Ibanez couldn't hit left-handed pitching, he was useless. But a sleeper player, I mentioned him in the bubble. As far as bubble players, is Trey Cruz. He's 27 years old, so he's quite a bit older, and the Tigers certainly liked him enough to protect him in the Rule 5 draft. There's no, as far as developmental, he's either 26 or 27. So he's pretty much a finished product. He plays in the infield, he plays on the outfield. He's a switch hitter, and he walks a ton, and he's steadily improved and, kind of emerged this year. I don't think there's any point in keeping him on the 40-man, adding him to the 40-man roster at the age of 27 if they didn't like him enough to play him from day one. There's really no developmental curve at this point. So he's somebody that I'm interested to see where they want him to play the most. I think his quickest avenue to playing immediately is probably in the outfield, especially if Parker Meadows is slow out the gate or Veerling just appears to be outmatched and past the prime that he had 2 years ago. I think they like Wenceel, and he's a switch hitter also. So I think they're going to give him every opportunity to to win the starting job. But those are three guys I see that could be on the hot seat if they don't hit out the gate. But we are already 30 minutes into the show. Let's move on to Scooble news. Scooble news? What is the latest? What is the latest for him right now?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of a weird spot because on paper it would appear that he probably should win his number, considering the disparity and where everyone else is at and his statistics over the last year or two, in comparison with some of the other pitchers that are. I mean, I joke when I say that are around what he's done. There really hasn't, other than Skeens, and obviously Skeens is on this rookie deal of his own. So it's weird because it came up again. John Heyman on Friday reiterated the same thing, that the Tigers are still interested in Chris Bassitt, but only if the Tigers organization wins the arbitration case to their $19 million suggested number, as opposed to Scooble and Scott Boris's $32 million number that they have put in. So that would be the only caveat to that. And the interesting thing about this is the arbiters are hired by the owners and the commissioners, and their job is to be close to 50-50 on these cases in terms of their final adjudication and who they agree with for one way or the other. Because if they don't, apparently, then they just get replaced. You don't like the result you're putting out there for them, you're just going to get replaced. So every time I keep thinking that Scooble should win this, I come back to that point and I'm like, man, if the owners basically put the screws, Scooble, like, nah, you're not getting your extra 13. You're going to take your 19 and like it. I think it might just, if there was any minute under 1% chance of him staying at all whatsoever, I think him losing that would go out the window with it too, anything beyond this year. So it's going to be awkward, just in general with the fans. Like, sure, every start, I'm sure the first start he'll get opening day will be a big one for the most part. And then as the year goes on and the season goes on, depending on how they do, the interaction could change a little bit. And you're going to see some sadness and whatnot, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just weird because he's on his way out. It's inevitable. It's there, unless something weird happens, which I think I might be more upset about. If we come out of this like right before, hey, Scooble 5 years, 250 or whatever, like from the Tigers, I'm gonna be like, no, go to hell, Chris. I cannot. Why did you wait so long to do this? Like, I don't understand. None of this makes sense, but I'm not going to get hopes up on that because everything so far points to he ain't shelling out pennies. So, yeah, that's it in terms of Scooble. So, you're gonna have to watch him this year. I mean, remember the crap from Seattle? Every start is going to be hyper analyzed. Is he pulling himself after X innings or X pitch count? Is that what's happening? Is he going to protect himself so he's going to blow his arm out for his big max contract that he get? We'll see. It's going to be a game within a game the rest of the year.
Yeah, and of course we continue, as you kind of talked about, that we are somewhat interested in other pitchers pending how the arbitration deal goes down. I saw more reports about Lucas Giolito, and yesterday they put out there that we still could be interested in Framber Valdez, whose price could be dropping as things continue to happen. We're now into February. Ironically, his projected asking price is $33 million, which is exactly what Scooble was asking for right now. I don't know if it's still $33 million at this point, because desperation should be setting in. But yeah, I would lean more to the Bassitt and Giolito side of things than the Framber Valdez, because most teams have decided that they don't want anything to do with it. So for us to go out there and pay, Valdez after all that, and and for Scooble to possibly have lost his arbitration, that could get awkward. So,
yeah. Well, and I can't get over the whole catcher thing last year with him. Remember, he crossed up his catcher and he said he didn't.
Yeah,
well, that was intentional to a degree. And if you're doing that to Dingler, I don't want your ass here. Sorry, that's our cornerstone backstop. You ain't going to show up him like that, like you did to your boy in Houston.
Yeah, I mean,
sounds
you would like to think that he's learned from his lesson. I mean, this guy was literally in the winter meetings way back when, like he was present at the winter meetings. So for him to 2 months later still not be, not even a whisper of activity, he messed up royally. So he'll be somewhere though. This is a frontline starter. This guy would be an ace on a lot of different teams. He would certainly be the ace on our team after Scooble. And it doesn't appear that we are going to be trading him. The Mets have won a different, Mets were one of the teams that we were linked to. The Yankees said, way too much. Who did the Mets end up having a trade with? It wasn't
it was Texas for Marcus Semien, I believe. The swap they did, big blockbuster trade earlier.
Yeah, well, yes, that happened. But they trade with the Brewers. Is that who got? No, yeah, they got Peralta. That's what it was.
Oh, Freddie, yeah, the more recent one, yeah, Freddie Peralta, yeah, just in the past week, yeah.
So I mean, that kind of takes them off the table. They chose to add one of their top prospects in Jet Williams and a couple other guys in exchange for 1 year of Freddie Peralta. So that kind of takes off the table the 1 year of Scooble, I would think. So we're rocking it out with him unless something happens with the Dodgers or Yankees, but the Yankees don't seem to want to pony up for whatever they need to do. So yeah. Moral story, it's going to be very important that we win the division because the AL East is loading up. The Blue Jays, the Orioles are working, and the Yankees are they're reeing up with what they got. They brought Bellinger back. They brought Grisham back. Yeah. Can't remember
what a nice blanket security names. Yeah, we'll go get these guys at the last minute. Not a big deal. We'll be okay.
Right. Yeah, Bellinger was out there quite some time. But as far as the AL Central, the White Sox have been pretty busy. Is this last year? What am I doing? Oh no, those are free agents.
Yeah, the Royals are pretty active. Obviously, the Guardians re-signed J-Ram the other week to a very, very organization-friendly terms on top of what he already had left on his previous extension. So I feel like the division is getting lean in terms of payroll, really. No one's really shelling out big money. Like J-Ram is getting for his production is obviously underpaid on the new extension, but that was on purpose. He doesn't want to go anywhere. Scooble. So he's going to be, a Guardian for the rest of his career, pretty much there. Because I think he'll be 40 when that contract expires. So I think there's some deferred money on that too. Also another angle Scooble could have taken. Boris, sorry, excuse me. But yeah, so the division after Scooble at the end of this year is going to be a lot of money going out in terms of contracts. So it'll be interesting to see how this division shapes up compared to the East and the West in the next few years.
Yeah. So, one thing that I can say is when you look at the top 100, the AL Central is kind of dominating the prospect side of things, which you better hope so when you're not spending money. I keep forgetting that the Royals went out and got Matt Strom, who's a pretty good reliever, but they definitely wanted to stock up on outfielders. They got Lane Thomas. They traded for Isaac Collins. And then Cameron Misner, who I assume would be a minor league player, but they also went out and got Alex Lang. The White Sox, when you talk about cutting money, they traded away Luis Robert and in exchange for Luis Angel Acuna. That was the big grab. But yesterday, they went out and got Munetaka Murakami, who's going to play third base for them. But yesterday they went out and got Austin Hayes, who is a pretty good defensive right-handed corner outfielder. I think there was some reports that that the Tigers might have been interested in him, which is interesting to me that maybe they are looking for some more right-handed corner outfield help. Hayes is coming off a pretty good year with the Reds. So I can maybe hold out hope that we still might be interested in somebody. There's not much left out there, but Austin Hayes he's a solid player. Another big move for them, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who was a relief pitcher for the Blue Jays last year. I think he's the White Sox closer now. So
you got Sean Newcomb, who's been around A's Athletics for quite a while. Jared Klenick's been a Central Division mainstay with the Guardians for a while too. So some familiar names there to round out some of the younger talent and new faces they've acquired. They'll be different looking this year. I mean, they were a little bit better last year. And the one kid, the infielder, was it last year, who killed us in one or two series. So this team is going to look way different. I'm not going to say this team is going to be among the worst in baseball. They're certainly going to be a bit more competitive than last year. I'm not going to treat them like the doormat that they have been in the past few years.
Yeah, I mean, they still ultimately could. Well, the Twins might be finishing last, especially if they end up selling off Joe Ryan and the other pitcher. But yeah, for those who really got used to Luis Robert being there, that'll be interesting. For him not being around, he's kind of the last big piece that they've moved in their youth movement. Not that Robert is so old, but he's been around since they won the World Series. So
the Texas Winfield Brawl,
right? It's been a sneaky off season for the Twins. They went out and got Victor Caratini, who's a pretty decent catcher. They went out and got Josh Bell and Eric Wagaman. So that's two different first basemen who have formerly played for the Marlins. And then Taylor Rogers, I don't think there's much there. And then Arcia signed a minor league deal. So not great, but I'm sure they'll do their valiant effort in trying to spoil things for everybody else in the division. So, yeah, I think it's still a two-man race between the Tigers and the Guardians. Guardians won the division last year, so you can't, although they didn't make I don't think they made a single move. You can't count them out.
Yeah, I'd like to say I don't think they won it. We blew it.
Yeah, I mean, they let Lane Thomas walk, and, they signed Sean Armstrong and Colin Holderman, whoever they are. So we kind of went through the acquisitions as far as the AL Central is concerned, but who is your dark horse to pay attention to in the American League as a whole?
Man, if I'm going to avoid the one that I think you might be taking, I'm going to go with, they were down last year. They had a decent end to the year. They were involved in one of the trades we just mentioned. I'm going to go with the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
I'm still big on the Mariners. I think they are still absolutely loaded. The A's got better last year, record-wise too, and they came into our place for a 4-game series, and I think took 2 or 3 out of 4. So the division is going to be a little bit better than we have seen, I think, the last year or two, especially Athletics, who have been a doormat for a long time. They got some pieces, but the Rangers, I think, are going to push the Mariners. I think they have a chance to get a wild card potentially. They got the rotation, man. I don't know if you've seen their arms. And DeGrom is still kicking, man. So at least down there in Texas, they're going to have the arms to compete. So I got the Rangers as my AL dark horse for this year.
And they just traded for Mackenzie Gore. Did you mention that part?
No, yeah, that too. Yeah, as if what they had done prior wasn't good enough. They went out and got him, I think, beginning of the week or late last week.
Recently,
to round that out for about, I think, 4 prospects, I think, in total. So
4 or 5. It was a nice haul.
Yeah, they're looking to kind of go at it again right now to pull the JB Bickerstaff quote from the other night. It only comes around so often. You got to go for it. And the Rangers, I think, have done that in this offseason, or at least they've strongly hinted that, you know what, we're not just going to, reload. We're going to fully reinvest for this year.
Yep, just 1 year down, and yeah, they definitely are going to try to contend again this year. We are 45 minutes into our show, and you just have to wait a little bit longer to see my dark horse team. We're going to take our last break. All right, so who did you think my team was going to be?
My guess off the top of my head when we were talking before we went live, Baltimore Orioles was my pick for you, but it might be in the division. But I kind of figured maybe deciding of Alonso, Polar Bear, and the other moves they've made, considering how bad they were last year. I mean, it got ugly in Baltimore for a minute. So
yeah, so that was actually that was a good guess. It is incorrect. But my dark horse is a team that you actually mentioned a couple of times in the midst of your spiel, and that is the Sacramento A's. Let's get these ads off here.
All right.
But yeah, they were my quote unquote league pass team last year, a team that I watched a lot of, on the late night, and they are really starting to build and extend, build out their core. They signed Soderstrom signed a long-term deal. They signed Rooker and Lawrence Butler the year previously, but just the other day they extended Jacob Wilson for 7 years and $70 million. They also traded for Jeff McNeil, who's a veteran that was a longtime Met, and Shea Langoliers. He's a guy that most people probably haven't heard of yet, but he had an amazing season last year. What does it say? Power ranks 60 overall, and then that. Oh, they don't do the position ranks, I don't think. But
I forgot they got Max Muncy. It's so weird seeing him not on the Dodgers.
Right. And then of course Denzel Clark. That's the great defensive center fielder. If they can get him to hit, that'll be huge for him. Huge for them. But of course, Nick Kurtz had an amazing year last year. Soderstrom hit a bunch of bombs. Rooker's solid. Wilson is like kind of the contact guy. But yeah, all in all, they got a pretty strong young core. If they can find any pitching, who's the pitcher? Who's the Severino? What's his name?
Luis Severino.
Yeah, Luis Severino. He was good away from Sacramento, but he had a horrible year at home. And other than that, they don't have a lot of good pitching. If they can develop or find a way to get some pitching, they'll really be dangerous. But it's going to be hard for them to compete. As you said, the Seattle is pretty stacked. Now, for me, I saw the Seattle ranked like third in all of baseball. I mean, they're losing Suarez and they lost Polanco. Why? They brought back Naylor, of course. He was the first person to get signed in the free agency. Why is everybody so high? I mean, I know Cal Raleigh is one of the best players in baseball. Who knows if he can repeat that. Julio Rodriguez is obviously good. You got the Cuban
Brian,
guy.
I mean, their rotation is still legit too.
The rotation.
Those arms are disgusting.
But they got some young, and then they have a lot of young prospects who may or may not pan out. But right now, I think their third baseman, if Suarez doesn't come back, is like Williamson. What's his name?
I thought Suarez already signed with another team. I thought, unless it was just.
Oh, he hasn't signed anywhere yet. Let's see what we got here.
That's crazy.
Randy Arozarena.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got
didn't they acquire him from Tampa originally?
Yes. You got Dominic Canzoni, rookie. Victor Robles, J.P. Crawford, shell of himself. Ben Williamson at third, and Cole Young, who's the young, promising, promising hitter. But you got some young players. Ben Williamson, Cole Young, Victor Robles, that's a sore. Didn't he hit a big home run versus?
Yeah, he hit the 3-run homer or whatever.
Yeah, but you got some holes there. Randy Arozarena, he's still pretty good, but not great. But you got a couple guys.
Yeah, Luke Raley. Luke Raley wasn't bad for him last year. He came on a lot of injuries.
Oh no, it was Leo. Was it Leo Rivas? I think it was Leo Rivas that got the hit.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Second baseman. Yeah, the only hit they had in that series was a bomb.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, they got a lot of good young players. They're bringing back Josh Naylor, which was high priority for them. But there's a lot more that they could have did to improve themselves, because they were one. As a Mariner fan, you got to be a little frustrated because you were so close to get into the World Series, and then the team does nothing. They didn't do anything. I think they traded.
Well, I think they kind of got lean in terms of money. They went for it at the deadline. They went and got a couple guys, right, to kind of help.
Yeah, they went and got Suarez, but he's not coming back. Or he. Yeah. The more time goes on, I think the less likely that if they were interested in bringing Suarez back, they would have did like Naylor and locked that in out the gate. The fact that he's been away, the talks have gone for so long. You got to think that they're like, he's been on the team twice. They went and got him 2 different times and let him go. So like, they're obviously not pleased. He had a terrible. I mean, all things considered, he had a terrible postseason for them. He hit a couple home runs, but I think he hit under 200. And his whole stint with Seattle wasn't great, even in the regular season. So I think that ship has sailed, and they've done that move 2 different times, and it is what it is. So yeah, Cole Young, Ben Williamson, J.P. Crawford, and Victor Robles all in the bottom, and then Dominic Kans. That is a horrible bottom half of the lineup. Great top half.
Yeah,
Randy to Naylor, but when you get to the bottom of that, you got a lot of unproven. J.P. Crawford's not unproven, but he's getting old.
It puts more on those limited veteran guys to kind of carry him a little bit more, to your point. Yeah. But I think it also avails, again, if they're there at the deadline, it provides more flexibility for them to, again, acquire more guys for those spots that they have these younger guys in who may not quite be delivering to the scope they want to be a legitimate contender. But, I mean, based on their roster and their arms, they're ranking them purely based almost on their arms, that they're saying pitching is traveling. Hitting doesn't necessarily travel well to all ballparks, obviously. I mean, we can say the same about pitching, but for the most part, pitching in terms of aesthetics against hitting a backdrop, there's a wild difference between a hitter and a pitcher. So, Mariners got Bizzardo, Matt Brash. Obviously, they went out and got who was the all-star closer that they got. Andres Munoz, Bryce Miller, they still have. I mean, and then Castillo, George Kirby, who we touched up a little bit. They've got the arms to compete against some of the offense. It's to your point, whether the young guys that are in the lineup will, rise to the occasion.
If Cal Raleigh goes down, it could get dark. Because that offense is certainly not going to yield much in a pitcher-friendly park, because they just hit a bunch of home runs. I'll give them that. They hit a ton of home runs, but that lineup can't manufacture. You got a bunch of guys that strike out a ton. I don't know if Naylor does, but Cal does. I want to say Randy does. They don't have too many like slap hitter. Cole Young could be a stud. I mean, he's only 22 years old, and was a former first-round pick. So he could be really, really good, but that's just my spiel on Seattle. Maybe they bring Suarez back. Maybe the Tigers bring Suarez in. Who knows? One thing, there's not too much, not too big of a deal, but I was definitely faintly interested in Luis Arias, and he is finally signed with the San Francisco Giants. They quietly were active in the last week. They went out and got Harrison Bader, so they added some balance, added some speed, added some, because they got some power. They got some pop in Devers and Willy Adames, who quietly hit 30 home runs last year. They got Matt Chapman too. So to add Harrison Bader and Luis Ariz to that lineup, I like what they're doing over there because they just don't hit very well. I think they pitch pretty good, but they don't hit very well, and it's not really a hitter's ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and if I'm not mistaken, Hunter Pence is the GM there, right, in San Francisco?
No, it's the catcher.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Buster Posey. Yep.
Yes. So yeah. The two guys that were kind of head scratchers outside of Framber Valdez that were hanging out in free agency were Luis Ariz and Eugenio Suarez. And so now Ariz got off the board first, 1 year, $12 million. So I wonder what Eugenio. I don't know if I don't think it's the money for Suarez. I think he wants the years at this point, and that's the hang up. It certainly will be the hang up for the Tigers. We know the Tigers don't want to extend some old third baseman long term. So that's probably the hang up with a lot of different teams. But somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. So
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it feels like all these guys that are like of those names, like the top 10 of their position in the last few years, a lot of them have been giving additional opt-out options as flexibility. So I don't understand it. If that's being offered, he's still saying no, then that's your prerogative, but I guess you'll be without a team this year. But how about one name that we have not talked about at all, that we talked about a lot last year and a bit throughout the season this past year, and it didn't come to fruition. And frankly, from what I've heard generally on local sports talk radio and our group chats, considering that there is technically kind of a spot still open because of Job, and he has not been signed, how come everyone suddenly has very quickly pivoted on bringing back Justin Verlander back to Detroit?
Oh yeah, how did we not talk about that? It makes me wonder how much he wants to come back, because there's been
what he said it.
Did he actually bring it up? Has Ben? Because Ben, we all know how crazy he is about the Bregman situation, but he hasn't been nearly as vocal about bringing his brother back. Because if anybody could have an opinion on that, it's his brother. So,
yeah, I mean, he's mentioned it generally, like in some conversations when people have asked it in a broader scope of an interview, not just a quick little beat writer, 10-minute, catch up session. He's mentioned, he goes, it's all, it always be nice and whatnot. I think maybe the joke goes, I don't know if Kate Upton wants to, I don't think they're going to move to Detroit if he finishes his career here. Now that he's got, kids and whatnot. But I just considering what he might be projected around and who we've given money to in the last 2 years and generally throughout the league elsewhere, I don't see how it couldn't have been done in terms of a number to agree upon. Obviously, he's not going to be asking for $32 million like someone else on the roster, but he had a good end to the year last year, and pre-deadline I didn't want him because he was terrible. He didn't have a win until damn near August.
Still at 4-11 altogether. So it doesn't look great even with all that, but yeah.
Even if you're not going to put him out there to start on a regular basis or whatever, if he becomes your sixth guy, like you stretch out your rotation, which they've done the last 2 years, even with Skubal down the stretch 2 years ago after the All-Star break, they kind of made him every 6 days. I almost would see it as like a signing of like you get into the playoffs and now all of a sudden he can kind of maneuver through some of those playoff games for you with that experience that he has. And maybe doesn't come out after 97 pitches. But yeah, I mean, the spot was there. The money shouldn't be an issue. And I'm sorry if we're still looking at Framber Valdez, who's projected at $30 million. Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. So it would be a cool exchange, coming back full circle, with Skubal being here and being at the top of his game the way Verlander was when he left Detroit. He pitched all year, 152 innings pitched. I mean, that's a decent amount. Sub-4 ERA. Certainly not anywhere near the level of where he was. And to me, I think that will be part of it is the fact that you're back in a Tigers uniform as if like imagine a player. I can't think of a player like Shaq. If Shaq started with the Magic and was great, obviously his best years were the Lakers, and then coming back to the Magic, at the tail end of his career, it just would have looked weird. So I don't know. So yeah. That's why I feel like if it was something that Verlander genuinely wanted, I don't see how that doesn't happen, especially if he can come to a reasonable price, because people are still paying him that amount. I don't know what he got paid from San Francisco, but he's been to Houston. So just Houston, just Detroit, Houston, and then San Francisco, or what? Did he have another stop? He was stopped in New York, or
briefly with the Mets. Yeah, he was traded in between because he was teammates again with Scherzer momentarily again in New York with the Mets. Right. But yeah, I mean, we gave Cobb $20 million. We gave Maeda 2 years, 35. Yeah, it was 20 and 15. But I mean, I'm fine with really anything under.
That's why I feel like it's not. That's why I feel like it's not on Verlander. I feel like. I mean, that's why I feel like it's not on.
I'm in agreement. This is what I don't understand conceptually from the front office and Scott Harris. He says certain things, and okay, it sounds logical, and then some of these decisions or lack of decisions pretty much contradict what he keeps regurgitating to us. And I think that's where a lot of this disconnect with the fans, us, and the front office to the team is happening, because some of these don't make sense. Like, I'm sorry, the Gleyber thing. He took that in a heartbeat because he was going to get half that over more years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. If you're that worried about losing him, then you're telling me Colt Keith is a trash second base defenseman, because Gleyber's among the worst in the league and has been for the last 2 years. I'm sorry, but you got Colt at a value, and if you don't want to block guys, well, you're blocking Colt with Gleyber now. I don't get it. It goes to a bigger thing, and I'll digress on that. But it would be very cool to see Justin come back, because, after last year, this could be it unless he doesn't get signed, and then last year would be it.
I misspoke when I said it's not on Justin. I feel like it is. I think it is on Justin. If we were willing to pay Alex Cobb, who's younger than Verlander, but if he wants
more than that, $20 million, then yeah, I agree. But yeah, I don't really know what he's done beyond that last 2 months last year, in the last 2 years, to make him believe that he's capable of earning that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then let's see how much he got paid last year.
He was getting paid anywhere, I want to say, between 14 and 18 million over the last couple of years, which 15. Is not bad.
Yeah, so he made 15 million last year. So you mean to tell me they came to the table with the asking price of 15, and we turned that down? I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, incentivize if you have to. Do it. You just did that with Flaherty in terms of starts and innings. I don't know why you can't construct the same thing for JV. It doesn't make any sense. He probably doesn't want it. It's almost like it's out of ignorance.
He probably doesn't want incentives. He probably just wants his money.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants more than 1 year, I could see that being a hang up too, especially at his age. Like, without an opt-out option, no way. I'm not, I mean, 2 years would be a stretch, but if I'm giving you 2 years, you ain't getting more than 15 in either year. So that's kind of where we're kind of splicing some hairs. But again, if we're going to pass on Fromber at 33, if we're risking Skubal of getting that potentially, then I could see why Verlander wouldn't even come into the conversation at that point. But if we do go Skubal at 19, then how the hell are we going to say that Chris Bassett is a better pitcher at his stage over JV, with the familiarity that we already have with JV, if they're getting offered around the same amount of money?
Bassett's better than Verlander at this point.
I don't know. I mean, given the role they're going to play, I think it's not as impactful. You know what I mean? It's not like they're like, hey, we are decimated. We need a number 3 guy in the rotation. Yeah, Verlander, that could be a very short experiment. But it's more of a supplemental signing more than anything.
Yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. The Verlander thing pushed us a little bit over an hour, but all in all, an action-packed show where we discussed the projections for the spring training, and we'll just see how our projections age, because anything could happen. But any closing remarks or anything that you, any plans as far as what you want to talk about? It's probably not too many plans as far as upcoming topics, as far as the next show is concerned.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, probably from a very high level for the rest of the way, as long as they continue to stay atop the division and they get near the deadline, what is the decision to come with Skubal, to trade or not to trade? Obviously, I think the decision, if they're not in a playoff position, I think that becomes more obvious in what they need to do. Whether they should or that they do or do not, obviously we'll wait and see. But I think it's more intriguing if they are atop the Central and where they're at with the other divisional leaders, what that might do for his potential value, and or what teams might be willing to get back, considering if they're in the spot too. Like, get Skubal, but we're going to go against this team and we're giving them probably a bat, be my guess, but we'll see. We'll see. We're closer to the start, 3 weeks. Lakeland, Florida, bring us warmth to Detroit, please.
Right. Yeah. And we got off to a really hot start last year. And this time, or last year, the trade deadline, we were running away with the AL Central. So if we have a similar path going this way, that'll make things really interesting, because it'll be time to consider going all in and winning it with Skubal, having Skubal for the last time. So that'll be real spicy and interesting. But we will not get too ahead of ourselves. We will be back around the time, probably, that pitchers and catchers report, as soon as there's some more news to report on, to talk about. But in the meantime, keep an eye out for our shorts to give you quick breaking news and any announcements, and subscribe to the channel, because we are here to stay, and about time to start ramping things up as we creep closer and closer to the beginning of the season. So we're going to get on up out of here, and I appreciate everybody that tunes in. We out.
Get your lick back. If a nigga do something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get